In a village rejected by many, young Okechukwu discovers a mysterious lion pendant that holds a powerful secret. As whispers of betrayal echo through the woods, he learns of a plot against the village chief that could bring destruction to everything he loves. Driven by courage and a newfound sense of purpose, Okechukwu rallies the villagers to confront the impending danger, revealing hidden strengths he never knew he had. But with danger lurking in the shadows, can he transform from the boy once rejected into the leader they desperately need? The true test of Okechukwu's heart and destiny is about to unfold in a battle that will change their lives forever. In the village of Nkwo, there was a boy named Okechukwu. Since he was a baby, people said Okechukwu brought bad luck. He had no mother or father. He was found outside a hut when he was just a tiny baby. No one knew who his parents were or where he came from, so many villagers were afraid of him. They called him Okechukwu the outcast. Okechukwu didn't live like the other children in Nkwo. While the others played in the fields or helped their parents in the market, Okechukwu wandered the edges of the village, searching for food or odd jobs. People rarely spoke to him unless it was to tell him to get away. Some even said his shadow alone could bring misfortune. Okechukwu didn't know why they thought that. He was just a boy who wanted to belong. But Okechukwu's life changed one day when he met a strange traveler at the edge of the village. The traveler was a tall, old man with a long stick and a voice that sounded like the wind itself. No one else could see him. When the old man looked at Okechukwu, his eyes were kind and understanding. "You are not what they say, Okechukwu," the man whispered, "you are meant for more." Then, he placed his hand on Okechukwu's head, and Okechukwu felt a warm, bright light fill his heart. Okechukwu asked, "Who are you?" But the man only smiled and said, "Remember the words of your ancestors, Okechukwu. A king must sometimes be an outcast before he wears his crown." The old man vanished, leaving Okechukwu confused and curious. What did he mean by the king? Okechukwu could barely find a place to sleep at night, let alone be a king. Yet, a small spark of hope grew in Okechukwu's heart. Maybe he was meant for something special. But if that were true, how would he find out? The next day, Okechukwu decided he would try to ask the village elders if they knew anything about his family. Maybe there was a reason he felt different. However, the elders had always avoided Okechukwu. They looked at him with cold eyes, their faces turning to stone whenever he was near. As he approached their gathering hut, he heard one of the elders, Elder Namdi, whisper to another, "He is the boy from the curse. If he gets too close, misfortune will surely follow." Okechukwu's heart sank, but he pushed forward. "Please, Elder Namdi," Okechukwu pleaded. "I only want to know who I am, why I'm different." Elder Namdi looked at him with pity but shook his head. "Leave, boy. You are trouble for this village, nothing more." Okechukwu left the hut, feeling as if a storm was raging inside him. But as he walked away, he noticed something shining in the grass. It was a small, silver pendant, shaped like the head of a lion. It glimmered in the sunlight, and Okechukwu felt a strange connection to it. He picked it up and placed it around his neck, feeling warmth spread through his body. From that day on, Okechukwu started to have dreams of places he'd never been, of forests and rivers, and a grand palace with tall, golden pillars. In the dreams, he wore the pendant, and he wasn't just a boy but someone important. A leader. A king. Over the following days, Okechukwu began noticing strange things. Whenever he was near animals, they seemed to understand him. Birds would land on his shoulders, and rabbits would hop close without fear. Even the village's fierce hunting dogs wagged their tails when they saw him. The village children started whispering about Okechukwu's strange powers. Some even dared each other to see how close they could get before they got cursed. Okechukwu ignored their teasing and focused on his dreams. He knew he was different, but he didn't know if it was good or bad. One night, as Okechukwu sat by the edge of the forest, thinking about his strange new abilities, he saw two men in dark cloaks sneaking through the village. They were carrying sacks filled with something heavy, and their faces were hidden by hoods. Okechukwu felt a strange urge to follow them, though he didn't know why. He kept to the shadows, moving quietly. He could hear the men muttering, "We'll hide it here, in the old cave near the river. No one will find it. Okechukwu felt his heart race. What were they hiding? And why were they doing it in secret? The next day, Okechukwu waited until everyone was busy in the market and then hurried to the cave near the river. He slipped inside and saw something glittering in the dim light. It was a chest, covered in jewels, and inside were golden bracelets, necklaces, and a crown. Okechukwu couldn't believe his eyes. Who would hide such treasures? And why? Before he could think further, he heard footsteps outside. The men were coming back. Okechukwu quickly hid behind a rock, his heart pounding. This will be enough to buy the throne, one man whispered. When the chief falls, we will take control. Okechukwu couldn't believe what he was hearing. They planned to overthrow the chief. He knew he had to warn someone, but who would believe him? He was just Okechukwu the outcast. But Okechukwu's heart knew what he had to do. He slipped away, his mind racing. He didn't have much time, but somehow, he felt that his whole life had prepared him for this moment. Okechukwu ran back to the village, his mind racing with thoughts of the stolen treasure and the dark plans he had overheard. Who would believe him? He was Okechukwu the outcast, the boy everyone shunned. But he knew he couldn't let fear stop him. The people of Nkwo needed to be saved from the greedy men who planned to overthrow their chief. And he would be the one to warn them, whether they believed him or not. When he reached the village square, he saw Elder Namdi talking to a group of villagers. Okechukwu took a deep breath and approached. The villagers watched him with narrowed eyes, whispering as he walked closer. He could feel their mistrust, but he stood tall and spoke as confidently as he could. Elder Namdi, Okechukwu began, his voice clear. There are men in the forest near the river cave. They have a chest of stolen treasure, and they plan to overthrow the chief. They want to take control of Nkwo. The elder's face grew cold, and he shook his head. Okechukwu, enough of your stories. You bring bad luck with your lies and nonsense. But Okechukwu didn't back down. He felt the pendant around his neck, its warmth reminding him of the courage the old man had given him. Please, you have to believe me, he insisted. I saw them with my own eyes, and I heard their plan. They are hiding in the cave near the river. They are planning to attack tonight. Just then, another elder stepped forward. Her name was Mama Ifunanya, a respected elder known for her wisdom. She looked at Okechukwu, her eyes soft but firm. Okechukwu, she said gently, I have seen you in my dreams, wearing a crown and standing as a leader. Perhaps there is truth in your words. The villagers murmured, surprised by Mama Ifunanya's words. She turned to the others and nodded. If there is even a small chance that Okechukwu speaks the truth, we must protect our village. Let us gather the warriors and search the cave. With the elders' approval, a group of villagers and warriors followed Okechukwu to the cave by the river. The sun was setting, and shadows crept across the land as they reached the entrance of the cave. The men Okechukwu had seen earlier were inside, counting their treasure and whispering about their plans. The villagers, hiding in the bushes, listened to their words and realized Okechukwu had been right all along. Elder Namdi, ashamed of his doubt, stepped forward and shouted, "Seize them!" The villagers rushed into the cave, surrounding the two men who tried to flee, but there was nowhere to go. The villagers tied them up and carried them back to the village square, where everyone gathered to hear their confession. The men admitted everything, explaining how they had stolen the treasures to bribe others and take control of the village. Okechukwu watched in awe as the villagers, who once feared and mocked him, thanked him for his bravery. His heart swelled with pride, but he still felt like an outsider, unsure of his place among them. Mama Ifunanya then stepped forward, looking deep into Okechukwu's eyes. She placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You have proven yourself to be more than what others have seen, Okechukwu. You have shown courage, wisdom, and strength, qualities of a true leader. Our village owes you its safety." She took his hand and led him to the chief's hut, where the chief himself welcomed him warmly. The chief removed the lion-shaped pendant from around Okechukwu's neck, holding it up for all to see. "This pendant belonged to my son," who was lost many years ago, he said with wonder. Okechukwu, you are that son. You are the rightful heir to this village. The villagers gasped, their eyes widening in surprise. Okechukwu felt his heart pound with disbelief. Could it be true? All his life, he had been an outcast, unloved and unwanted. Now, he was standing as the chief's son, the future leader of Nkwo. Tears filled his eyes as he looked at the villagers who once rejected him. They now knelt before him, bowing in respect. Elder Namdi lowered his head, humbly asking for forgiveness, and Okechukwu, with a kind heart, extended his hand and helped him rise. From that day on, Okechukwu was no longer Okechukwu the outcast. He became Okechukwu, the Lion of Nkwo, a name that would be remembered for generations. As he grew into his role, he ruled with wisdom and compassion, always remembering the hardship he faced. He treated everyone with kindness, especially those who felt alone or forgotten. Okechukwu became a king who taught his people that greatness can come from anyone, even those who seemed the most unlikely. And every night, he looked up at the stars and remembered the strange old traveler who had told him he was meant for more. Okechukwu knew that his life was a gift from his ancestors, and he was determined to live in a way that honored them. The village of Nkwo flourished under his rule, becoming known as a place of courage and kindness, led by the boy who was once an outcast but rose to be the king he was always meant to be.